Gentlemen, let's speak honestly. If you are over 50 and still wearing a baseball cap with a team logo, you are not aging gracefully. You are disappearing. You are hiding beneath fabric designed for boys, not men of consequence. A baseball cap does not frame the face. It flattens it. It erases structure. And at our age, structure is everything. Mature style is not about youth. It is about architecture. And today, I am introducing you to the one hat that restores it. As men age, the rules change, whether we accept them or not. The face softens, the jawline retreats, hair thins or disappears altogether. This is not failure, it is biology. But dressing as if nothing has changed is where men go wrong. A baseball cap clings to the skull like a bandage. It offers no height, no shape, no dignity. It does not correct the face, it exposes its weaknesses. What a mature man needs is not camouflage, he needs structure. This is where the Baker Boy cap earns its place. Unlike the standard flat cap, which can look rigid, even severe, the Baker Boy cap introduces volume. 8 panels, a rounded crown, lift at the top. This volume is not decoration, it is engineering. It restores balance to the face. It adds height where age has taken it. It reframes the head as intentional, not apologetic. And most importantly, it conceals hair loss without shame. There is nothing more undignified than pretending you still have hair you do not. The Baker Boy does not pretend, it declares. Historically, this cap sits at a rare intersection. It belonged to dock workers and scholars, farmers and aristocrats, men who labored and men who led. That duality is its power. When worn correctly, it signals experience without fragility, tradition without stagnation, strength without arrogance. But let us be clear, this is not a costume. If you wear this cap too small, too flat, or tilted theatrically, you look like an actor, not a man. The crown must have air, the brim must sit naturally, the cap must rest, not grip. Think countryside authority, not television gangster. Pair it with textured fabrics, wool coats, tweed jackets, structured knitwear. Never sportswear, never slogans, never logos. This is not nostalgia, it is evolution. The mature man does not chase relevance, he embodies it. And the Baker Boy cap, worn with restraint, becomes a crown, not of fashion, but of presence. Chapter 1. The Distinction. To the untrained eye, all tweed caps look identical. They are lumped together under a lazy, dismissive label, grandpa hats. This assumption is not just wrong, it is a sartorial failure of the highest order. Because within this category exist two very different instruments, designed for two very different men. The first is the flat cap, often called the ivy cap. It is constructed from a single continuous piece of fabric, pulled tight, streamlined, purposefully restrained. It is sleek, aerodynamic. It follows the skull exactly as it is, and therein lies the problem. The flat cap does not correct, it does not enhance, it merely traces. For a younger face, fuller cheeks, stronger contrast, this can work. But for the mature man, the flat cap becomes unforgiving. As we age, volume migrates, cheeks hollow, the skull becomes more visible beneath the skin. The flat cap highlights every one of these changes. It can shrink the head visually, particularly when worn with a heavy coat or structured outerwear. The result? A head that appears too small for the body, a silhouette subtly weakened, linear, severe, exacting. Now, contrast this with the Baker Boy. 8 triangular panels converge at a central button, an octagonal crown, a deliberate architectural dome. This is not incidental design. This is intention. The baker boy does not cling to the skull. It rests above it. There is lift, there is air, there is volume. And that volume is not excess. It creates balance. It counterweights the jaw, adds vertical height to the head, introduces shadow, depth, quiet authority. Where the flat cap exposes, the baker boy frames. It creates a visual halo, a crown-like presence. At this stage of life, a man does not need clothing that records reality. He needs clothing that interprets it intelligently. The flat cap follows the skull. The baker boy crowns it. And after 50, you do not merely cover the head, you crown it. Chapter 2: The Nobility of Tweed. If structure is the skeleton, then fabric is the soul. And this is where many men betray themselves, because fabric cannot lie. Shiny synthetics are not minor mistakes, they are violations. Polyester gleams under artificial light. It reflects instead of absorbing. It announces itself as manufactured, weightless, temporary. On a mature man, this is fatal. Shine exaggerates redness in the skin. It amplifies irregular texture. It creates the impression of costume, not clothing. And a man of experience must never look dressed for effect. The gentleman chooses the opposite: matte, textured, substantial. He chooses fabric that absorbs light, not attention. He chooses tweed. Tweed is not merely a textile, it is a landscape. It was born in harsh weather, Scottish winds, Irish hills, relentless rain. It was designed not to impress, but to endure. Its fibers are dyed before spinning, dyed in the wool, creating depth that no surface print can replicate. This is why tweed ages with dignity. It does not shine when new, and therefore never looks cheap when old. Among its noble forms, 3 deserve respect. Harris tweed, legally protected, hand-woven, rugged beyond reason. It carries the scent of earth, lanolin, in history. Donegal tweed, speckled with quiet color, irregular, complex, a fabric with personality. And herringbone, structured, architectural, disciplined, order beneath softness. Then there is color. Reject flat black. Black drains life from mature skin. It hardens lines. It belongs to funerals and uniformed anonymity. Instead, choose colors drawn from terrain: peat brown, moss green, charcoal gray, heather blue. These tones harmonize with silver hair and seasoned skin. They soften without weakening. They dignify without shouting. True tweed should feel alive, rough in the hand, heavy enough to resist the wind, built to be worn, not preserved. It is not precious, it is noble. And like the man who wears it, it improves with age. Chapter 3: The Fit. Avoiding the mushroom. Even the finest Harris tweed is meaningless if the fit is wrong. Fit is not a detail, it is the decision. And the most common failure is what I call the mushroom effect. A cap purchased too large, the crown collapses outward, fabric spills over the ears, the head widens while the body remains vertical. The result is catastrophic. Your silhouette loses height, your neck disappears, you look shorter, rounder, and older. Not seasoned, not established, just overwhelmed by your own clothing. The mushroom cap does not suggest wisdom, it suggests neglect. Then there is the opposite failure, the vice grip. A cap chosen too small. It perches, it pinches, it compresses the temples. Red marks appear by lunchtime. The skull looks elongated, narrow, fragile.
This is not elegance. This is discomfort disguised as effort, and elegance cannot be strained. So we return to fundamentals. First, measurement. Measure your head in centimeters, not guesswork. 1 inch above the eyebrows, above the ears. Tape snug, never tight. That number is your size. Memorize it. Never round down. If you sit between sizes, size up and pad the band discreetly. Second, the pinky rule. With the cap on, you should be able to slide one pinky finger between the band in your temple. There should be resistance, not pressure. If the cap grips, it will fatigue you. If it floats, the wind will humiliate you. Third, position. The brim should rest just above the ears. The crown should hold its shape but drape slightly. Not rigid, not collapsed. Alive. When you move, the cap should move with you, not demand adjustment. If you are constantly touching it, correcting it, worrying about it, the fit is wrong. And in quiet luxury, effortlessness is not optional. If it is not effortless, it is not elegant.
Chapter 4. The Art of the Tilt. Now we arrive at the final ritual. This is where most men fail. They place the baker boy squarely on the head, centered, symmetrical, rigid, perfectly balanced, and perfectly lifeless. Gentlemen, stop. You do not look refined. You look like a train conductor waiting for the whistle. Style does not live in symmetry. Symmetry is static. It is architectural. It belongs to buildings, not men. Life lives in asymmetry. The Italians understood this centuries ago. They call it sprezzatura. Studied carelessness, effortless mastery, the appearance of ease earned through discipline. Here is how it is done. Place the cap properly first. Correct size, correct position. Then, and only then, introduce imperfection. Slide the cap slightly, 15 degrees at most, toward your natural part, or your stronger side. Not theatrical, not exaggerated, subtle. Next, draw the brim down just a fraction, enough to cast a gentle shadow across the eyes, enough to soften crow's feet, enough to introduce mystery. This shadow is not concealment, it is authority. One ear remains slightly exposed, a diagonal line cuts across the forehead. The result is movement, relaxation, confidence without effort. Now, a critical detail. If your baker boy has a front snap, it stays fastened. Unsnapped, the cap collapses into costume. You move from landowner to news vendor in one careless gesture. And finally, a commandment. Never, under any circumstance, wear the baker boy backwards. That is not rebellion. That is desperation. The baker boy is not casual wear. It is sculpture. And the tilt is what brings sculpture to life. Chapter 5. The Uniform. The baker boy is not an accessory. It is a declaration. And declarations demand discipline. This cap carries volume, history, and presence. If the rest of your clothing cannot support it, the entire silhouette collapses. This is where many men fall into the Peaky Blinders trap. They assemble a full-period costume, waistcoat, pocket watch, exaggerated nostalgia. That is not style. That is cosplay. The goal is not reenactment. The goal is modern authority informed by heritage. Let us begin with context. First, the countryside gentleman. A tweed baker boy, a waxed field jacket, weathered, practical. A cable-knit sweater with real weight, corduroy trousers that carry texture from hip to ankle. Nothing shines, nothing strains. Each fabric speaks the same language. This is effortless heritage. Next, the urban architect, a gray herringbone baker boy, a structured wool overcoat with clean lines,
A dark turtleneck, disciplined, intellectual. Minimal color, maximum structure. This reads thoughtful, composed, decisive. Then, the creative casual, a textured baker boy, a canvas chore coat or leather bomber, dark raw denim, substantial boots. This is where old-world character meets modern grit, still grounded, still deliberate. Now, the golden rule. The baker boy adds volume to the head. Therefore, you must add volume to the shoulders. If the upper body is thin, the head dominates. This is why you never wear this cap with a flimsy t-shirt, never with light summer shirts. You will look top-heavy, unbalanced, and balance is dignity. Now the prohibitions. No shorts, no sandals, no hoodies, no graphic tees. These garments speak a language of leisure that contradicts the cap entirely. And finally, a rule older than fashion itself. A gentleman removes his hat indoors, at the threshold, because style is not about being seen, it is about knowing when not to be.
The transition from a baseball cap to a baker boy is not cosmetic. It is not seasonal. It is not aesthetic. It is philosophical. A baseball cap was designed for utility and anonymity. It shields, it flattens, it asks nothing of the man wearing it. And that is precisely the problem. The baseball cap speaks quietly, but clearly. It says, I am hiding. I am unfinished. I do not wish to be examined. For a young man, this is forgivable. For a man of experience, it is a retreat. The baker boy speaks differently. It carries volume, structure, history. It does not cling to the skull, it frames it. It does not erase age, it dignifies it. When worn correctly, it does not shout for attention, it commands it. The message is unmistakable. I have arrived. I am comfortable being seen. I am no longer borrowing confidence. This is why the shift feels uncomfortable at first, because it is not a style adjustment, it is an identity upgrade. You are no longer dressing to disappear into crowds, you are dressing to occupy space. So retire the faded cotton, the cracked logos, the language of spectatorship. Invest in tweed, not because it is old, but because it is enduring. Learn the tilt, not as a trick, but as a signal of ease. Own the silhouette, because posture, proportion, and presence matter now more than ever. At this stage of life, trends are irrelevant. You are not dressing to be current, you are dressing to be correct, to be read properly, to be remembered accurately. The architecture is waiting. All you must do is step into it.